Have you ever wondered if there are subtle signs that someone lacks wisdom? What if the traits of a foolish person are easier to spot than you think, and even easier to fix? Stick around, because today, we're diving into 8 signs of a stupid person through the lens of timeless Stoic philosophy. And trust me, this is about more than pointing fingers. It's about self-reflection. Stoicism teaches us that true wisdom isn't just about knowledge or intelligence. It's about how we think, act, and treat others. In this video, we're not here to judge anyone, but to explore ancient Stoic insights that can help us identify and avoid the behaviors that make life harder, less fulfilling, and less peaceful. Because let's be real, recognizing these signs in ourselves is the first step to becoming better. The Stoics believe that wisdom is the key to a virtuous and meaningful life. But foolishness? That's the root of chaos, unhappiness, and unnecessary struggle. The problem is, stupidity isn't always obvious. It hides in common behaviors, subtle habits, and everyday decisions we don't question enough. So, why is this so important? Because these behaviors don't just harm us, they ripple out to others, creating conflict and holding us back from reaching our full potential. But here's the good news. The Stoics didn't just diagnose the problem. They gave us practical tools to rise above it. 1. They refuse to learn from mistakes. Life has a way of teaching us lessons through experiences, particularly through our mistakes. These moments of failure or misjudgment are opportunities to learn, grow, and make better decisions in the future. However, a foolish person fails to recognize the value in these lessons. Instead, they shift blame, make excuses, or even deny that a mistake occurred at all. This refusal to learn not only stifles personal growth, but also perpetuates a cycle of repeated errors. In Stoic philosophy, the emphasis on self-control and personal accountability is a cornerstone. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, reminds us in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple yet profound statement encapsulates a core Stoic belief. We cannot always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. A wise person uses this understanding to reflect on their mistakes and grow stronger from them. A foolish person, on the other hand, sees mistakes as a reflection of their worth rather than an opportunity to improve. So why do some people refuse to learn from their mistakes? One reason is ego. Admitting fault requires humility, a willingness to confront one's imperfections and vulnerabilities. For some, this feels too much like an attack on their identity or self-esteem. They fear that acknowledging a mistake makes them weak, when in fact, it's one of the most courageous things a person can do. Another reason is a fixed mindset. A foolish person often believes that intelligence or ability is static. They either have it or they don't. This belief discourages them from putting in the effort to change. In contrast, a growth mindset, which Stoicism inherently promotes, sees mistakes as stepping stones to improvement. When you recognize that your abilities and character are not fixed, but can evolve through effort and reflection, you open yourself to a world of possibilities. Take a moment to think about your own life. How many times have you faced a challenge only to make the same mistake over and over again because you didn't stop to analyze what went wrong? It could be something as simple as neglecting to save money after a financial setback, or as complex as repeating unhealthy patterns in relationships. The common thread is that without self-awareness and accountability, we are doomed to relive the same struggles. The Stoics advise us to treat life like a training ground. Every experience, whether good or bad, is an opportunity to practice virtue. For example, let's say you lose your temper during an argument and say something hurtful. A foolish person might justify their behavior by blaming the other person. They provoked me. But a wise person takes a different approach. They reflect on the situation and ask themselves questions like, why did I lose my temper? What could I have done differently? How can I prevent this from happening again? By honestly answering these questions, they can identify the root cause of their behavior and work to change it. Over time, this practice leads to greater self-control and emotional resilience, qualities that are invaluable in navigating life's challenges. It's also important to recognize that learning from mistakes is not about obsessing over past failures or beating yourself up. Stoicism teaches us to focus on the present moment and what we can do now to improve. The past is unchangeable, but the lessons it offers are priceless. By embracing this mindset, we can transform our mistakes into tools for personal growth. Consider this. Some of the most successful and wise people in history are those who experienced significant failures. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This perspective is deeply aligned with Stoic philosophy. Failure is not the end. It's a necessary part of the journey toward success. The key takeaway here is that growth starts with humility. When we stop blaming others, making excuses, or ignoring our mistakes, we create space for self-reflection and improvement. This process isn't easy, but it's essential for living a virtuous and fulfilling life. After all, the only true failure is refusing to learn. 2. They speak more than they listen. In a world filled with noise, the ability to truly listen is a rare and valuable skill. Yet foolish people often find themselves doing the opposite, speaking more than they listen. They dominate conversations, interrupt others, and focus on being heard rather than understanding. This behavior not only hinders meaningful communication, but also reveals a deeper lack of wisdom and self-awareness. Epictetus, another prominent Stoic philosopher, offers a timeless reminder. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This simple observation highlights the importance of listening as a path to understanding and growth. When we prioritize speaking over listening, we miss out on valuable insights, perspectives, and opportunities to connect with others. Why do some people feel the need to talk so much? One reason is insecurity. They may believe that by constantly sharing their opinions, they can prove their intelligence, knowledge, or worth. Ironically, this often has the opposite effect. People who talk too much without listening come across as self-centered or arrogant, which alienates others and undermines their credibility. Another reason is impatience. Foolish people often struggle to tolerate silence or pauses in conversation, so they fill the space with words. They may also interrupt others, thinking they already know what the person is going to say. This behavior not only shows a lack of respect, but also prevents them from gaining new insights or perspectives. Stoicism teaches us that wisdom begins with understanding, and understanding requires active listening. When we truly listen to others, we gain knowledge, build empathy, and strengthen our relationships. Listening is not just about hearing words. It's about being fully present and engaged. It's about asking questions, seeking clarification, and striving to understand the other person's point of view. One of the greatest benefits of listening is the opportunity to learn. No matter how much we know, there is always more to discover. The world is full of people with different experiences, perspectives, and expertise. By listening to them, we expand our understanding and challenge our own assumptions. This is especially important in today's polarized world, where meaningful dialogue is often replaced by shouting matches and echo chambers. Listening also requires humility. It's an acknowledgement that we don't have all the answers and that other people's insights are valuable. This humility is a key virtue in Stoicism, which emphasizes the importance of self-awareness and intellectual curiosity. When we listen with an open mind, we not only gain knowledge but also demonstrate respect and appreciation for others. However, listening is not just about what we gain, it's also about what we give. When we listen to someone, we validate their thoughts, feelings, and experiences. We show them that they matter and that their voice is valued. This creates a sense of connection and trust, which is essential for building strong relationships. On the flip side, speaking too much without listening creates barriers. It sends the message that we are more interested in ourselves than in others. This behavior can damage relationships, hinder collaboration, and even lead to conflict. So how can we become better listeners? The Stoics offer practical advice. Practice mindfulness. Be fully present in the moment and focus on the person speaking. Resist the urge to interrupt. Let others finish their thoughts before responding. Ask questions. Show genuine curiosity and seek to understand the other person's perspective. Reflect on what you hear. Take time to process the information and consider how it aligns with or challenges your own beliefs. In conclusion, speaking more than we listen is a sign of foolishness because it closes us off to new ideas, alienates others, and hinders personal growth. By cultivating the habit of listening, we can gain wisdom, build stronger relationships, and lead a more meaningful life. Remember, as Epictetus wisely said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." The path to wisdom begins with an open mind and attentive ears. 3. They avoid accountability. One of the defining traits of wisdom is the ability to take responsibility for one's actions. Whether our choices lead to success or failure, owning them is essential for growth, trust, and self-respect. Unfortunately, foolish people consistently avoid accountability. They dodge blame, make excuses, and point fingers, all in an effort to protect their ego or avoid discomfort. While this might seem easier in the short term, it leads to long-term consequences that can stifle personal growth and damage relationships. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, captured the essence of accountability when he said, "He who is brave is free." This quote is profound because it links courage to freedom. Owning up to your mistakes, flaws, or poor decisions takes bravery. It requires a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about yourself and face the consequences of your actions. Yet, in doing so, you free yourself from the burdens of denial, guilt, and self-deception. By avoiding accountability, foolish people miss out on this freedom and instead remain trapped in a cycle of blame and defensiveness. Why do so many people avoid accountability? One reason is fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, or fear of failure. Admitting fault can feel like exposing a vulnerability, and for those who equate mistakes with weakness, this can be terrifying. However, Stoicism teaches us that mistakes are not a reflection of our character, but an opportunity to improve it. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Taking responsibility for your reaction to life's challenges is a hallmark of wisdom and strength. Another reason people avoid accountability is pride. A foolish person may believe that admitting a mistake diminishes their authority, intelligence, or value. Ironically, the opposite is often true. When you own your actions, others are more likely to respect you, trust you, and see you as a person of integrity. Avoiding accountability, on the other hand, can erode trust and damage relationships. No one wants to work with, follow, or rely on someone who refuses to take responsibility when things go wrong. In Stoicism, accountability is closely tied to the concept of self-discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You must build up your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible, and no one can keep you from this." This quote reminds us that our lives are shaped by the cumulative impact of our choices. By taking responsibility for each action, we empower ourselves to build a life of purpose and virtue. Avoiding accountability, however, undermines this process and leaves us at the mercy of circumstances. Consider how accountability impacts everyday life. In personal relationships, avoiding responsibility can lead to resentment and conflict. For example, imagine a person who consistently arrives late to social gatherings. Instead of apologizing or acknowledging their behavior, they offer excuses like, "Traffic was bad," or "I lost track of time." Over time, this lack of accountability erodes trust and makes others feel unvalued. A wise person, on the other hand, would say, "I'm sorry for being late. I'll leave earlier next time to make sure it doesn't happen again." This simple act of owning up to a mistake fosters respect and strengthens relationships. In the workplace, accountability is equally important. A foolish employee might blame a colleague for a missed deadline or downplay their role in a project's failure. This behavior not only damages their reputation, but also creates a toxic work environment. A wise employee, however, takes ownership of their contributions, both good and bad, and focuses on finding solutions rather than assigning blame. This mindset not only earns the respect of coworkers, but also promotes a culture of collaboration and growth. The consequences of avoiding accountability extend beyond individual relationships. On a societal level, a lack of accountability can lead to corruption, injustice, and stagnation. When leaders, institutions, or organizations refuse to take responsibility for their actions, trust erodes and progress stalls. Stoicism challenges us to lead by example, taking responsibility for our own actions and holding others accountable in a constructive and principled way. How can we cultivate accountability in our lives? The Stoics offer several practical strategies. Self-reflection. Take time each day to reflect on your actions and decisions. Ask yourself questions like, did I do my best today? Where could I have done better? What can I learn from this experience? Humility. Accept that everyone makes mistakes and see them as opportunities for growth rather than failures. Clarity of values. Define your principles and use them as a guide for your actions. When you act in alignment with your values, accountability becomes a natural part of your behavior. Seek feedback. Be open to constructive criticism from others. Use their insights to improve yourself and your actions. In conclusion, accountability is a cornerstone of wisdom and a key to personal growth. By owning our actions, we demonstrate courage, integrity, and respect for ourselves and others. Avoiding accountability might feel easier in the moment, but it chains us to our mistakes and keeps us from reaching our full potential. Remember Seneca's words, "He who is brave is free. The path to freedom begins with responsibility." 4. They seek validation instead of truth. The need for validation is a universal human trait. We all want to feel seen, valued, and appreciated. However, when the pursuit of validation takes precedence over seeking truth, it becomes a sign of foolishness. A person who prioritizes external approval over honesty, authenticity, and personal growth is not only misguided, but also bound to face unnecessary struggles and disappointments. Stoic philosophy teaches us to value what is right, not what is popular. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this in his Meditations. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. This observation highlights a paradox in human behavior. We claim to value our own worth, yet we often let the opinions of others dictate our actions, choices, and self-perception. The wise person breaks free from this cycle by focusing on inner truth rather than external validation. Why is the pursuit of validation so tempting? For one, it provides a temporary sense of security. When others approve of us, we feel accepted and valued. This is a natural human desire, rooted in our evolutionary need for social belonging. However, Relying on validation as a source of self-worth is like building a house on sand. It's unstable and vulnerable to external shifts. A single criticism, rejection, or failure can shatter the illusion of worthiness, leaving us feeling lost and insecure. A foolish person craves validation so intensely that they are willing to compromise their integrity to get it. They may lie, exaggerate, or conform to the expectations of others, even when it goes against their values or beliefs. This behavior not only undermines their authenticity, but also creates a constant state of anxiety. After all, if your self-worth depends on external approval, you're always at the mercy of others' opinions. The Stoics remind us that true fulfillment comes from within. Epictetus taught, "Who is your master? Anyone who has control over what you seek or avoid." In other words, when we seek validation, we give power to others to determine our happiness and sense of self. A wise person, however, seeks truth and acts in alignment with their principles, regardless of external opinions. One of the dangers of seeking validation is that it blinds us to the truth. For example, a person who craves approval may surround themselves with people who always agree with them, avoiding constructive criticism or differing perspectives. This creates an echo chamber that reinforces their beliefs but limits their growth. In contrast, a wise person values honest feedback and uses it as a tool for self-improvement. Another issue with seeking validation is that it often leads to superficiality. A foolish person may prioritize appearances over substance, focusing on what looks good rather than what is good. This can manifest in various ways, such as curating a perfect image on social media, chasing material success to impress others, or making decisions based on what is popular rather than what is right. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." True virtue is not about impressing others, it's about living with integrity. How can we shift from seeking validation to seeking truth? The Stoics offer several practical approaches. Focus on inner values. Define your core principles and use them as a guide for your actions. When you act in alignment with your values, external opinions matter less. Practice detachment. Recognize that you cannot control what others think of you. Instead, focus on what you can control, your own thoughts, actions, and reactions. Seek honest feedback. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, even if their feedback is uncomfortable. Reflect on your intentions. Before making a decision, ask yourself, am I doing this for approval or because it aligns with my values? In conclusion, seeking validation instead of truth is a sign of foolishness because it prioritizes appearances over authenticity and external approval over inner fulfillment. The Stoics teach us that true wisdom comes from acting in alignment with our principles, regardless of what others think. As Marcus Aurelius said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." To live wisely, we must let go of the need for validation and embrace the pursuit of truth. 5. They react emotionally to everything. Emotional reactions are a normal part of being human, but when those emotions take control and dictate our behavior, they become a sign of foolishness. The Stoics believed in mastering emotions rather than being mastered by them. A person who reacts emotionally to everything, whether it's an insult, a setback, or a disagreement, loses their ability to think rationally and act wisely. They are at the mercy of external events, which is the exact opposite of the Stoic ideal of inner control and composure. One of the most powerful Stoic teachings on this topic comes from Epictetus, who said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple truth reminds us that we cannot control what happens in life, but we can control how we respond. A wise person practices self-restraint and reflection, ensuring that their actions align with their principles rather than being driven by fleeting emotions. A foolish person, however, allows their emotions to rule them, often to their detriment. Why is reacting emotionally to everything a problem? For one, it clouds judgment. When emotions like anger, fear, or frustration take over, our ability to think clearly and make rational decisions diminishes. Imagine someone who gets cut off in traffic and immediately explodes with rage, honking their horn and yelling at the other driver. In their anger, they may make reckless decisions, like tailgating or speeding, which could endanger themselves and others. A Stoic approach, on the other hand, would involve recognizing the situation for what it is, a minor inconvenience, and letting it go. Another issue with emotional reactivity is that it damages relationships. People who frequently lash out in anger, jealousy, or frustration often alienate those around them. Their inability to regulate their emotions creates tension and conflict, making it difficult for others to trust or feel comfortable around them. Wisdom, by contrast, lies in emotional intelligence, the ability to understand, manage, and express emotions in a healthy way. Marcus Aurelius advised, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When we take responsibility for our emotions, we create harmony both within ourselves and in our relationships. One of the keys to overcoming emotional reactivity is recognizing the distinction between what we can control and what we cannot. This is a central tenet of Stoicism. External events, like someone's rude comment, a disappointing outcome, or an unexpected challenge, are beyond our control. However, our thoughts, attitudes, and actions are entirely within our power. By focusing on what we can control, we free ourselves from the tyranny of emotional reactions and gain the clarity to respond wisely. Another important practice is cultivating self-awareness. Emotional reactions often arise from unconscious patterns or unresolved issues. For example, someone who feels insecure might react defensively to constructive criticism, perceiving it as a personal attack. A wise person, however, would take a step back, examine their emotional response, and consider whether it's justified or helpful. Seneca offered this advice: "If you wish to be free from anger, do not feed the habit." The first step to mastering emotions is becoming aware of them and questioning their validity. Mindfulness is another powerful tool for managing emotions. By staying present in the moment, we can observe our feelings without being overwhelmed by them. When faced with a challenging situation, a Stoic might pause, take a deep breath, and ask themselves, "Is this worth getting upset about? Will this matter a week, a month, or a year from now?" This pause creates space for a thoughtful response rather than an impulsive reaction. Practical exercises can also help us build emotional resilience. The Stoics often practiced a technique called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This involves imagining potential challenges or setbacks in advance so that you're emotionally prepared to face them. For example, if you know you're going into a difficult meeting, you might visualize how you'll respond calmly and constructively if tensions arise. By rehearsing your response, you reduce the likelihood of being caught off guard and reacting emotionally. In conclusion, reacting emotionally to everything is a hallmark of foolishness because it places us at the mercy of external events and undermines our ability to think and act wisely. The Stoics teach us that true strength lies in controlling our emotions rather than being controlled by them. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. By practicing self-awareness, mindfulness, and emotional resilience, we can cultivate the composure and clarity needed to navigate life's challenges with wisdom and grace. 6. They fear change. Change is one of life's only constants, yet it is something that many people fear. This fear of change, or resistance to it, is often rooted in a desire for comfort and stability. A foolish person clings to their comfort zones, avoiding risks and resisting growth. They view change as a threat rather than an opportunity, which leads to frustration, stagnation, and missed opportunities. In contrast, the Stoics saw change as a natural and necessary part of life. They embraced it with courage, flexibility, and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe how all things are constantly changing, and accept that nature loves nothing more than to change what is and make new things." This quote beautifully captures the Stoic perspective on change. The universe is in a constant state of flux. Seasons shift, relationships evolve, and circumstances transform. Resisting this natural flow is not only futile, but also a source of unnecessary suffering. Wisdom lies in accepting change and adapting to it with grace. Why do so many people fear change? One reason is uncertainty. Change often involves stepping into the unknown, which can feel intimidating or even terrifying. People fear losing control or facing challenges they're not prepared for. However, the Stoics remind us that we never truly have control over external events, only over our own thoughts and actions. By focusing on what we can control, we can face change with confidence and resilience. Another reason people resist change is attachment. We become attached to our routines, possessions, and relationships, viewing them as sources of security and identity. When these attachments are threatened, we feel as though we're losing a part of ourselves. The Stoics, however, teach us to practice detachment and view everything as temporary. Epictetus advised, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well." By letting go of attachments and expectations, we can embrace change with an open mind and heart. Fearing change can also stem from a fixed mindset, the belief that our abilities, traits, or circumstances are static. A person with a fixed mindset might avoid new challenges because they fear failure or doubt their ability to adapt. A wise person, however, adopts a growth mindset, viewing change as an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve. As Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Change is not an ending but a doorway to new possibilities. Resisting change often leads to frustration and missed opportunities. Consider someone who refuses to adapt to new technology in the workplace. Their fear of change might protect them from discomfort in the short term, but in the long term, it limits their career growth and relevance. A wise person, by contrast, embraces change as a chance to expand their skills and stay ahead of the curve. The Stoics offer several strategies for overcoming the fear of change. One is to reframe your perspective. Instead of viewing change as a threat, see it as a challenge or adventure. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this experience make me stronger or wiser? This shift in mindset can turn fear into curiosity and resistance into motivation. Another strategy is to focus on the present moment. Often our fear of change is fueled by anxieties about the future. What might go wrong, what we might lose, or how we might struggle. By staying grounded in the present, we can approach change one step at a time, rather than being overwhelmed by what lies ahead. As Marcus Aurelius advised, "Do not let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." In conclusion, fearing change is a hallmark of foolishness because it leads to stagnation and unnecessary suffering. The Stoics teach us to embrace change as a natural and inevitable part of life. As Marcus Aurelius observed, nature loves nothing more than to change what is and make new things. By practicing detachment, adopting a growth mindset, and focusing on what we can control, we can face change with courage and wisdom, transforming it into a powerful force for growth and renewal. 7. They hold grudges. Holding a grudge might feel justified in the moment. After all, someone wronged you, and the pain they caused deserves recognition, doesn't it? But the Stoics believed that clinging to resentment is one of the most foolish things a person can do. Why? Because the grudge doesn't harm the person who wronged you. It harms you. It festers in your mind, saps your energy, and prevents you from moving forward. Seneca captured this perfectly when he said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." At its core, holding a grudge is a form of emotional self-punishment. Imagine carrying a heavy stone everywhere you go. The stone represents the resentment and anger you feel towards someone who hurt you. Every step becomes harder, and eventually the burden begins to weigh you down. The person who wronged you? They've moved on, but you're still carrying the weight. This is the essence of why holding a grudge is foolish. It harms you more than it harms anyone else. Why do people hold grudges? One reason is that they mistake forgiveness for weakness. They think that letting go of resentment means condoning the other person's behavior or admitting defeat. But the Stoics saw forgiveness as a sign of strength, not weakness. To forgive is to reclaim your power, to refuse to let someone else's actions dictate your emotions. It's an act of liberation, not submission. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." By letting go of anger, you rise above the wrong and free yourself from its grip. Another reason people hold grudges is the illusion of justice. They believe that by staying angry, they're somehow balancing the scales or teaching the other person a lesson. But in reality, grudges rarely achieve justice. They only prolong the pain. True justice, as the Stoics saw it, comes from acting with virtue and integrity, not from clinging to bitterness. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means refusing to let that behavior control you. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of perspective. Often the things we hold grudges over are minor in the grand scheme of life. Did someone insult you or let you down? While it might sting, does it really matter in the long run? Marcus Aurelius advised, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When we focus on what we can control, our own thoughts and actions, we can let go of what we can't control, including other people's behavior. How can we break free from the trap of holding grudges? One way is through empathy. The Stoics believed in understanding others rather than judging them. When someone wrongs you, consider their perspective. Were they acting out of ignorance, fear, or pain? Recognizing that everyone is flawed and fallible can make it easier to let go of resentment. As Epictetus said, when someone is properly grounded in life, they shouldn't have to look outside themselves for approval. By focusing on your own growth and inner peace, you can rise above the actions of others. Another approach is practicing gratitude. When you hold a grudge, you focus on the negative, what someone did wrong, how they hurt you, and why it's unfair. But gratitude shifts your focus to the positive. What are you grateful for in your life? What lessons have you learned from difficult experiences? Gratitude helps you see the bigger picture and reminds you that your happiness isn't dependent on others. Mindfulness is also a powerful tool. Holding a grudge often means replaying the same painful memory over and over in your mind. Each time you do, you relive the anger, hurt, or betrayal as if it's happening all over again. Mindfulness teaches you to observe your thoughts without getting caught up in them. When the memory arises, acknowledge it, but don't dwell on it. Instead, bring your focus back to the present moment, where you have the power to choose peace over resentment. In conclusion, holding a grudge is a hallmark of foolishness because it harms you more than anyone else. The Stoics teach us that forgiveness is a sign of strength and wisdom. As Seneca wisely observed, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. By practicing empathy, gratitude, and mindfulness, we can free ourselves from the burden of grudges and cultivate a life of peace and resilience. 8. They think they know it all. Perhaps the ultimate sign of foolishness is arrogance, the belief that you already know everything there is to know. This attitude not only stifles growth, but also alienates others. A wise person understands the vastness of what they don't know and approaches life with humility and curiosity. The Stoics emphasize the importance of intellectual humility, recognizing that true wisdom comes from acknowledging our own ignorance. Epictetus put it succinctly: "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Why is thinking you know it all so foolish? For one, it closes the door to learning. When you believe you have all the answers, you stop seeking new knowledge, perspectives, and experiences. This arrogance creates a stagnant mind, resistant to growth and change. Wisdom, by contrast, thrives on curiosity and openness. A wise person asks questions, listens to others, and embraces opportunities to learn. As Socrates famously said, "I know that I know nothing." This acknowledgement of ignorance is the foundation of true wisdom. Another problem with arrogance is that it blinds you to your own flaws and mistakes. A person who thinks they know it all is less likely to accept feedback or admit when they're wrong. This lack of self-awareness leads to repeated errors and missed opportunities for improvement. The Stoics believed in constant self-reflection and self-improvement. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You must continually remind yourself, I am a soul carrying a corpse." This reminder of our mortality and fallibility keeps us grounded and humble. Arrogance also damages relationships. People who act like they know it all often come across as dismissive, condescending, or unapproachable. They dominate conversations, ignore others' input, and prioritize being right over being kind. This behavior alienates friends, family, and colleagues, creating a sense of isolation. Wisdom, on the other hand, fosters connection. A wise person listens more than they speak, values others' perspectives, and approaches conversations with an open mind. How can we cultivate intellectual humility and avoid the trap of thinking we know it all? One way is by embracing a growth mindset. A growth mindset recognizes that our abilities and knowledge are not fixed. They can always be developed. Instead of seeking validation, a person with a growth mindset seeks improvement. They see challenges as opportunities to learn and mistakes as valuable lessons. This mindset aligns perfectly with the Stoic philosophy of constant self-improvement. Another approach is practicing active listening. When someone shares their thoughts or experiences, focus on truly understanding their perspective rather than waiting for your turn to speak. Ask questions, show empathy, and consider what you can learn from their viewpoint. As Epictetus advised, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Listening more and speaking less creates space for growth and connection. Reading and lifelong learning are also essential for intellectual humility. The more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. The Stoics were avid learners, drawing wisdom from philosophy, literature, and science. They believed that education was a lifelong journey, not a destination. By staying curious and open to new ideas, we can continually expand our understanding and challenge our assumptions. Finally, practice self-reflection. Take time to examine your thoughts, actions, and beliefs. Are there areas where you might be wrong? Are you open to feedback and new perspectives? By regularly questioning yourself, you cultivate the humility needed to grow. Seneca wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." This reminder that growth is a lifelong process keeps us humble and hungry for wisdom. In conclusion, thinking you know it all is a hallmark of foolishness because it stifles growth, blinds you to your own flaws, and damages relationships. The Stoics teach us that true wisdom begins with humility. As Epictetus warned, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. By embracing a growth mindset, practicing active listening, and committing to lifelong learning, we can cultivate intellectual humility and continue to grow in wisdom and understanding. Here's the thing. We all have moments where we fall into one or more of these traps, and that's okay. It's part of being human. But what separates the wise from the foolish is the willingness to reflect, course-correct, and grow. The Stoics believe that philosophy isn't just theory, it's a way of life. Every day is an opportunity to practice these principles and move closer to wisdom. So let me ask you, which of these signs resonated with you? And more importantly, how will you use this awareness to improve? The Stoics understood that wisdom is not about perfection. It's about progress. By identifying and addressing these 8 signs of foolishness, we can cultivate the qualities of a wiser, stronger, and more peaceful person. Life will always challenge us, but how we respond determines our character. Remember, as Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Subscribe for more Stoic wisdom, or check out the next video to keep learning.